Today I want to show you through how I sewed this dress. It's got a full circle skirt, lining, elasticated waist, and a triangular cutout on the bodice. So let's get started, shall we? Here I cut out 2 half circle skirts. I have a back piece, and I have 2 sleeve pieces here, and I didn't end up using them. Here I've gone ahead and cut out lining pieces for the bodice pieces and tacked them together. So I'm going to be sewing the shoulder seam and the side seams with a French seam. This means placing the front and back pieces wrong sides together, pinning them, and I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I'm going to be sewing 1/4 inch. Next we need to trim the seam. Turn it so wrong sides are facing, and then stitch again 1/4 inch to conceal the raw edges. And that's how you do a French seam. I've gone ahead and roll hemmed this edge of the front bodice pieces, and I'm going to sew that in place. Moving on to the skirt, I'm sewing the 2 half circle skirts together along the side seams with a French seam again, and I've done the same with the lining pieces as well. And then I am marking the center back of the skirt and matching it with the center back of the bodice piece, right sides together, and then I am pinning the skirt and bodice together. After pinning that in place, I do like to hand baste it together so that I can take out the pins and it's a bit more secure for my liking. Once that's done, I am sandwiching the bodice piece with the lining and pinning that in place. Once that's all pinned to perfection, I am taking it to my sewing machine and stitching it down all through those 3 layers, making sure to catch every single one. We've turned out a dress after sewing that waist seam and pressed it. And now we are going to sew about 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, maybe 1/4 inch, however thick your elastic is, because we want to thread it through that cord that we're going to sew. So all the way around the waist, that should make a channel. Don't completely close the channel because we want to thread elastic through. And the elastic is going to be 2 inches less than your waist measurement. So here I'm sewing that casing between the shell, skirt and the lining. Taking my elastic and using my safety pin to guide the elastic through that channel all the way through till it comes back out. Stitching those two elastic pieces together by hand. And then pulling and stretching the elastic in place. I just wanted to talk about the gathering on the waist. I think that's worked really well. But because there's so much fabric, and it's a big circle skirt, and this isn't necessarily really lightweight, it's got a bit of weight to it. It is kind of, you know, pulling down a little bit, so later on I might want to shorten the elastic a bit just to make it really tight. But I would recommend, if you're going to do this sort of design, you know, using a bit of a lighter weight, which is what I'll do next time. Next, we are roll hemming the neckline of the dress. As well as the center front pieces to join the two bodice front pieces together. I've threaded a piece of ribbon through those top channels and gathered it so it's got like a little keyhole effect, and I'll tie that when I'm wearing it. Here I'm just ironing the hem of the skirt, folding in once and then again to create that rolled hem and pinning it in place. Once that's all pinned, I'm taking it to my machine once again and stitching that hem, doing the same on the lining. Here's a little close-up of the hem. I just rolled hemmed all the way around the circle skirt, and for the lining I just cut it a bit shorter and hemmed it so it doesn't like do any weird like appearances. It's staying underneath. It's not fun roll hemming two big circle skirts, but it's worth it for the fullness. I mean, come on. Here I've jumped ahead to the armhole. I am not attaching the sleeves. I decided at this point, so I am overlocking the armhole and then I'll fold that under and stitch that in place. And just did a little hem and did some tiny hand stitches so you can't see it on the outside, just because there's already like a line of stitching here for the neckline and I didn't really want another one so close to it, like right there. So I tried it on my mannequin at this point, and there's a lot of kind of room underneath the bust, which I don't really want. I don't think anyone wants that. So I will be adding a small little dart. And I'm going to sew that in place.